My pleasure to welcome you to Exit Issues, our April edition. We've got a great program for you today. As we start this morning, one of the things that I would like to do is give a shout out to our 2021 mission members, a number of whom are in the room here this morning. They have invested over and above their membership to make sure that we can continue to do the work that we're doing to build a strong business community, advocating for a strong business and economic environment throughout the Daytona Beach region. So can we give a round of applause for our mission members this year? Thank you very much. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. For those of you who are joining us virtually, please double check that your cameras are off and your microphones are muted so that will minimize the feedback and distractions. If you have a question or comment at any time through the program, if you're attending virtually, we'll ask you to submit that using the chat function. We should go through some instruction here to kind of guide that for you. So you're going to want to click the button at the top right that says More with the ellipsis. Get this out of the way. There we go. When you click that, it'll bring down a chat menu, a drop-down menu. The chat button will be the first option. Select that, and that will open that up, and virtual attendees can submit their questions that way. For those of you who are attending with us here in person, as per normal Exit Issues protocols, we ask you to write your question down on the question cards at your table. We'll collect those, and we'll get to as many questions as we can through the program. So one of the things that we have been doing fairly regularly at our Exit Issues as well is doing some poll questions. You should have received an email with some tips on getting logged in as well yesterday, and there's instruction cards on your table. For those of you who are virtual, you're welcome to participate as well. So I would say this is the point where everybody get out your smartphones. It's like the anti-meeting rule, like most people are telling you to put them away. So get out your smartphones. We've got some Daytona Beach International Airport trivia questions to ask of everybody this morning. If you are logging on, a couple of options for logging on to our Poll Everywhere software. You can do it online through your web browser on your phone, or if you've participated in the past by downloading the app, just open the Poll Everywhere app. Once you get logged in, the Poll Everywhere on your web browser is pollev.com/DRCC. If you're using it in the app, just enter the username DRCC. When you get logged in, you'll enter your name. Your name will not appear on the screen. All of the answers show up in the aggregate, so there's no fear for being called out on anything. We've got one type of question we're asking today. All four of our questions are multiple choice, so you'll see them kind of like on the graphic here on the left. Just tap the answer you think is correct, and the answers will start to appear on the screen. When you enter your name and you get to this position, you're kind of ready to go to answer the questions. Does anybody have any challenges that we might be able to assist with? Is everybody ready to go for our first trivia question? All right, with that, we're going to get underway. So in 1928, the city moved the airport from the beach to where? Current location on Catalina Drive, Bethune Point along the river, where the Volusia Mall sits now, or the side of the old Florida Hospital Oceanside. Very interesting. The correct answer is Bethune Point along the Halifax River. 17% of respondents, or moved to its current location on Catalina Drive. All right, next question. How many commercial airlines operate out of DAB? Pretty well split. Last call, the correct answer is 4. So 30% of you correct. Question number 3. How many ambassadors volunteered at Daytona Beach International Airport? 19, 26, 32, or 45? The majority got this one correct, 54%, 45 volunteers at Daytona Beach International Airport. Next, how many runways are at DE? Because we know it's not one, since the question asked it in the plural. Correct answer is 3. 16% got it right. The last question, this will take me a second to read through, so I ask your patience. So if you forget your grandfather's antique pocket knife in your pocket while going through the TSA checkpoint, you should go back to your car, put it inside, and run back to TSA. Tell TSA it's a fake. Just throw it away because you don't have time to go to your car, or ask TSA to mail it back to you, compliments of the airport. And 88% of you are correct. Ask the airport to mail it back to you at their compliments. So thank you very much for that. Interesting to see some trivia and information about our airport and how it operates. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce our 2021 Chair of the Board from Beaumar Construction, Mr. Len Marinaccio.
All right, thanks, Ken. And thank you all for joining us this morning for our AIDS and Issues program. As you can see, we have an audience in person and an audience that's logged in virtually this morning. As this is our second hybrid event, we hope the experience is going to be great for both of these audiences. Today's program will feature Karen Feaster, Director, and Joanne Magnan, Community Information Officer for the Daytona Beach International Airport. While DBIA is constantly upgrading runways and taxiways, they have just completed a $14 million facelift of their lobby and concourse. You might know that they generate an estimated annual economic impact of more than $2.1 billion, and they are home to American, Delta, and Sunwing Airlines. But before we introduce our speakers, we'd like to recognize our elected officials who are here either in person or online and provide an opportunity for some sponsor remarks. At this time, some of our special guests this morning here in person with us, Heather Post from the Volusia County Council. Suzanne Conchian, Deputy County Manager. Will Roberts, Volusia County Tax Collector. And then joining us virtually this morning, we've got Stephanie Benedict, the Assistant to Representative Tom Lee. With any officials that we missed this morning? Great, thank you so much for coming and attending. While we're doing our introductions, I'd like to take just a minute to introduce Sean Richmond to our in-person or virtual audience. Sean, if you could stand up for a minute there in the back. Sean's joining our chamber team as our new role of Director of Advocacy. The position was developed following Jim Cameron's announcement that he'd be retiring from the chamber after 38 years of service. I'm sure you all get a chance to meet him, and you'll hear a lot from him in the coming months. And while we have many generous members who go above and beyond to help us bring relevant and meaningful programs to our members in the community, tonight we'd like to recognize and give an opportunity for some comments to first our presenting sponsor, Halifax Health. Please welcome John Guthrie.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning. How is everybody? Good? All right. So I got some numbers and then a little report for you on your health system. I asked how many babies have been born at Halifax Health ever. How many people here were born at Halifax Health? Pretty good. Usually there are more of us, but that's okay. So from January 6th, 1928 to April 6th, 2021, how many do you think were born? Shout it out loud. More. No, not enough. Too many. We'd be in trouble. No, that would be 135,596. So I thought that was pretty cool because so often I hear people say, "Oh, I was born here." So I wanted to share that number with you. The other number I want to share with you is how many people we have, how many vaccines we have done over the last, since December. And that number is 20,000 now. And I'm going to give you a little secret. If you want the vaccine, today about 3 o'clock, I'm going to post the next signups for the next week. And it's been going extremely well. We're vaccinating probably 500 people a day because we're doing first shots and second shots. So there's a lot going on at the hospital. Today we have 500 people in the hospital for our census, which is a lot. And think about this, we have over 470 people in hospice right now. So there's a lot happening in our community with healthcare. And the other thing I want to hit on is the fact that education is key. And we have numerous ways that people can get educated at Daytona State College and come to Halifax Health with a mentor and with scholarships in medical assistants, who we need, phlebotomists, who we need, radiology technologists, which we need. So there's a great opportunity for healthcare careers. And if you know anyone where you think they would like to talk to somebody, we have recruiters who, excuse me, who are happy to talk to them. So on behalf of our 4,300 team members, I want to thank you for being here, and I will give it back to Lynn. Thanks.
Thanks, Don, and thanks as always to Halifax Health. Our next sponsor comment from Diane Park from Daytona Beach News Journal.
Hi, thank you again. Well, who knew this was going to be quiz morning? Okay, one thing I wasn't prepared for, John, thank you. All right, well, the one place that the News Journal is very pleased to be able to hold is making sure we all know what's going on, making sure that companies like John's have a voice in our community, and that we're able to let our businesses and our civic members know what is important, what's going on, what we need to know to be able to function successfully through all these changing times. Now, I'm going to repeat slightly from that last month because, as you all know, I'm in marketing, and repetition helps with branding. So if any of you are new from last month's event, we are now part of the net. We're part of USA Today Network. Our advertising arm is called Local IQ. We are still the newsroom. We're still the same newsroom we hope that you all know and love, but we're more than that now. We offer more services than ever before. We have more reach inside and outside of our communities than ever before, and we plan to continue to be here strong and help you all continue to plan for your own futures. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks again to the newsroom. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. First, Karen Feaster, Director of Daytona Beach International Airport. They'll both be joining us virtually this morning. She began as a volunteer intern at DBIA in 1992, and in her 27-year career, she was Director of Properties and Finance, Administration and Grants, Administration and Projects, and Airport Services. Since 2015, she was Deputy Airport Director under the direction of Airport and Aviation Economic Resource Director Rick Carl. She took on more responsibility. In the past 10 years, she's managed more than $90 million in grant-funded airport projects and oversaw the design and construction of a $14 million terminal renovation project. On June 16th, she was confirmed by the County Council to be Director of Daytona Beach International Airport. Karen is an Embry-Riddle graduate with a bachelor's degree in aeronautical studies with management and is a 2016 Leadership Daytona graduate. Joanne Magley, also joining us this morning, is the Director of Marketing and Consumer Experience for the airport, where she leads the marketing and PR efforts and works to enhance customer service experience. She is also the primary media contact for the facility. She was previously Volusia County Communication and Information Director, and Joanne is a 2007 Leadership Daytona graduate. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to present Karen Feaster and Joanne Magley.
Morning. Good morning. This is Karen Feaster. Thank you for inviting us to talk about the airport this morning and for that introduction. And actually, I was going to start with introducing our management team. So on the next slide. Okay, and you did such a great introduction. I'm going to make this real quick. So I know many of you must know Rick Carl. Rick was born and raised in the Daytona Beach area and has been with the county for many years. He served as the Director of Aviation and Economic Resources for the last 10 years and also as the airport director. Rick is retiring in the end of June. So as was mentioned, I became the airport director in last June. I can't believe it's been a year already, and have been with the airport about 28 years. But I'd like to introduce the rest of our management team. And they also did a great introduction of Joanne. So she is the Director of Marketing and Customer Experience. And Dan Blake, he is an accredited airport executive. He is our Director of Airport Operations. He oversees all the safety and security aspects of the airport. We're very highly regulated, so there are lots of federal regulations that he adheres to. Also, we have a Director of Administration and Properties. That position is currently vacant, and we hope to fill that soon. And then our fourth area is projects and maintenance. So Eric Troit is our Embry-Riddle grad, and actually I don't know if I mentioned that Dan is as well. And Eric is accredited airport executive. He worked for the Florida Department of Transportation Central Office and was an airport director at a couple of general aviation airports. So we're very excited about the team that has been built here. Okay, we're going to switch to just a little bit about a few quick things about the history. So one of the questions were about the movement of the airport from the river. So we actually moved to this location in 1930. And then construction began on what we call the old terminal now. It actually now houses Customs, Embry-Riddle's Next Gen facility, and the UCF incubator. The county of Volusia took over the management and operation of the airport from the city of Daytona Beach in 1969, so it's been over 50 years. And in 1992 is when we built the new terminal, which we still kind of call the new terminal, even though it's 28 years old. Okay, and then we're going to touch on economics. Thank you. All right, so airports are a huge economic driver for every community. And as was mentioned, the economic impact for Daytona is $2.1 billion. And that was done by the Florida Department of Transportation in 2019. And they actually update this study every 5 years for every airport in the state. And in 2014, our economic impact was 1.1 billion. So that is a huge change in a 5-year period. Okay, and the airport operates as an enterprise fund, which just basically means that we operate as a business. So there are no ad valorem tax dollars that go to operate the airport. Okay, and then our operating budget is typically about $13 million, personnel and all of our operating expenses. And our capital budget, as was mentioned, we do a lot of capital projects. And so that number varies from year to year. And we're going to showcase a few of those projects in just a moment. Okay, I just wanted to touch on property development because it is a huge piece of our revenue portfolio. So everything in green is owned by the county as airport property. There's just over 2,000 acres. You can see portions of the Speedway are on airport property and portions of Embry-Riddle. Also, next slide. Also, some people are surprised to see we have 4 hotels. All of these are on airport property, along with, next slide, 2 great restaurants. And these are all revenue coming into the airport to ensure that we can stay sustainable. Okay, and we want to touch on or highlight our south property. So this is the largest tract of vacant property that the airport has. This is showing the 328 acres. A portion of that is on the air side currently, but it basically runs between Bellevue Avenue Extension and Bevel Road. It's a great location, 1 mile from the interstate intersection of I-95 and I-4. And we are currently working to get that ready for development. Okay, next slide. So far, a traffic signal's been installed. That's right across the street from Pelican Bay. Next. And also, we're working on all the environmental portions of this project. So a lot of the permitting and whatnot to get it prepared. Next. All right. And then this is a potential conceptual layout. And this layout was actually done for permitting purposes, but it does show the maximum build out of this site. So there's lots of opportunity here. So it will be interesting years from now to look back at this picture and see what actually happened compared to the original concept. Okay. All right, now we'd like to talk about some of our capital projects. So, okay, so if you, first of all, if you haven't been to the airport lately, we think you're in for a big surprise. We've really modernized the facility and really enhanced the customer experience. And pretty much everything that we do is all about the customer experience. We're always thinking about that, and Joanne will get into that a little bit further. So first, this is the lobby area, and you'll see it's terrazzo flooring. One of the main features is the water wall. It's all natural stone. You'll see the balcony was taken out and really opened up the area to make it airy and bright. Okay. All right, it's been new seating put in. So this seating area, I mean, everything was thought of, even to the point where the distance between the rows of seats, we actually sat down, everyone stretched their legs out, made sure there was plenty of room. The passengers could walk by or walk between the rows and be comfortable, and you weren't too close to each other. And also 52% of the seating does have power outlets. It makes it very convenient for the passenger. Next. Okay, and here's a picture of one of the gate areas. So there's all new millwork and technology. You'll see all the digital screens in the back. Next. Okay, and here's a good example of some of the technology that's been added. There's been quite a bit of technology added. So this video wall spans the entire length of the ticketing area on the first floor. You'll notice on the left, there's the airline branding for those counters, and then the counters that are not currently leased are used for advertising purposes, like the sign about the new service to Philadelphia and Dallas on American Airlines. And also we've installed common use system. So a common use system is basically kind of a plug and play system for airlines where they can come in, log in, and they're in their own reservation system. And what that does is it decreases the infrastructure cost for an air carrier to start service in Daytona. So it's a great air service marketing tool that Joanne uses quite often when speaking with the air carriers. Okay, and this next picture, very proud of this one. This is the Dennis McGee room. There's many community meetings here. I'm sure many of you have been here before, and I hope you'll be very surprised and pleased with the results of this room. It's just about finished. There's a few punch list items left and some permitting issues that we need to get closed out, but we do estimate it will be available within a month or two at the most. Also in this photograph, it shows the bar area. So this bar area was relocated from where it was existing in front of the McGee room, in front of the restaurant area. So what that did is it provided additional space to expand the McGee room a little bit and also create another sitting area for passengers while they're either waiting for their loved ones to get off the flight or waiting to actually board. And I'm sure many of you know, if you don't know Dennis McGee, Dennis was with the airport for over 32 years. Many of those as the airport director, and unfortunately he passed several years after retirement. So we're very proud of that room and that photograph of him. Next. Okay, another exciting area. So this is what we call the meet and greet area. It used to be, if you'll see on the left, it used to be an old gift shop from the very beginning when the terminal was built in '92, and then it was basically closed off for many years. So it's all been opened up. A lot of our existing artwork has been relocated to this area, and we've also gone through the art and public places process. Council just approved selection of some of the artwork, and we're also going out again to purchase a few more pieces. But this will create a cultural experience for the passenger. So our plan is to create a brochure that gives you the information about the artwork and the artists and allows you to walk around and experience it almost like a museum gallery kind of feel. So great addition to the whole overall experience at the airport. Okay, all right, and here's a great shot of the concourse area. So You'll notice digital signs at the bottom of all of those, the numbered areas. Also, there's restaurant, gift shop, all of the amenities that are needed. And there's a few areas we want to highlight. If we go to the next screen, this lists some of the customer conveniences that we offer. But one area we wanted to highlight is the mother's room. So this is a brand new concept. It's a trend in airports nationwide. And so a special room was created for nursing moms or dads that want privacy to feed their babies, or you have toddlers and need some privacy. It's located right between gates 3 and 5 and available whenever the concourse is open. Okay, and the next page, or next slide. Thank you. All right, so this is another very exciting program. So this is called Books on the Fly, and the airport has collaborated with Volusia County Library System, and the library system provides books that go out of circulation to us. They're put in this part of the business center, and if they're available for passengers at no charge, all complimentary. Take a book on the flight with you. You see a book someone you know would love, grab one. And also they have an app that they've created that you can log in. You don't need to be a library card holder. It's available to all passengers. You can log in and it allows you to download movies or music or audiobooks and other things like that. So it's a very exciting program. We've gotten rave reviews from that. And you'll see on the right is there's children's books in the mother's room for toddlers. And also just to mention in the business center, so we had a business center prior to, this has been enhanced. There's a gorgeous desk overlooking the airfield. You can sit and work on your computer. There's conversation areas set up for folks to do business or just have some quiet space. So it's a nice quiet area of the terminal that you can work while you're waiting to board your flight. Okay. All right, and then Taxiway November. So this is another capital project that we just recently completed. This project is this taxiway actually is the main air carrier taxiway. And this included redoing the pavement, all of the lighting and all of the infrastructure under the pavement. So it was a huge project, took many years, many grants involved. And if we jump to the next page, is just another shot of that area. And these projects, when we're able to receive grant money for these projects, not only does it update the airport and the infrastructure, but it also it's a huge economic impact to the community. It brings in a lot of money and it creates a lot of jobs. So this particular project was just over $38 million. Okay, and then the next one we want to highlight is the parking improvements. So we just started this back in December. There's 4 elements to it. The first one we're working on is the pavement. So if you've been out here, you'll notice the short-term, long-term lots are being repaved now. Also where the rental car pickup area is. We'll soon be starting on Catalina, which is the road right in front of the airport, and also Innovation Way. Okay, we'll jump to the next one. And then the other 3 portions of this project include the ticket dispenser canopy. So that's another customer convenience. So right now when you pull up, if it's raining, unfortunately you do get wet. So this is going to change all that. It's going to give you protection from the incremental weather. We're also redoing the lighting in the parking. It will be LED lighting. So not only will it be brighter and safer, but it's also sustainable for the environment. And the third piece is the signage, so the wayfinding signage. So we have now selected that blue color and that font. So now all of the signs, we're hoping to get that project out for bid very soon. And all of the signs will be redone and appear and look like this picture here. Okay, next one. All right, and then the last one I just want to highlight is what we call ARF, or Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting trucks. So 2 of our trucks are 16 years old. They're being replaced, and these vehicles are amazing. They're large and powerful and just truly amazing machines. So we're excited we should have those. It actually takes a year to build. But we should have them sometime this summer. Okay, next slide. All right, and then I guess a presentation during a pandemic wouldn't be a presentation during a pandemic without talking about it. So I'm going to touch on the funding piece, and then Joanne will touch on how we responded as an airport to ensure our community was safe. So the federal government, there's been 3 programs so far that have allocated dollars to airports. Total, there's been $20 billion allocated for airports nationwide. So the first act, the CARES Act, $21 million was allocated to Daytona, and the real goal or intent of that was what you see in parentheses there, to really keep airports reliable and safe and ensure that we could support the economy and the traveling public when we are able. We actually never closed, but when traffic picked up, they were still operational and in good shape. And then the second one was just approved by council. It's $2.6 million for the airport. And this one included $70,000 for us to share with our concessionaires to ensure that they can remain sustainable. And then the third one, the American Rescue Act, we do know that it's been approved. The amount allocated to Daytona has not been put out there yet. So we're waiting on word on that from the FAA. All right, so first, the FAA has very strict rules and regulations, especially about leasing and rates and charges and whatnot. So when the CARES Act came out, they actually had a provision in there that allowed airports to support their concessionaires. And we have not seen that ever within the FAA. So this was the first time, and our council really understood the importance of having our business partners succeed, so we all succeed. So there was approval of some tenant accommodations, and recently the final agreements on the airlines, both Delta and American and Republic Parking, who does our paid parking, were awarded accommodations for that. And we are working on some of the other tenants, and really it applies to tenants that were passenger resilient. So the people that really were affected by the decrease in passengers. And Joanne's going to touch on that. So I'm going to turn that over to her. Joanne.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everybody. If we could switch to the next slide. All right, so as Karen mentioned, COVID hit last year, and pretty much air travel came to almost a halt because travel restrictions were put in place. So immediately airport leadership started daily and weekly calls with the Florida Department of Transportation and the Health Department and the airport industry in general. We were looking for best practices and making sure we could do whatever needed to be done to ensure a safe and healthy environment here at the airport. So we developed the DAB Ready plan, and it consisted of 5 key components, and you see those there on the screen: a safe and clean facility for our team and customers and travelers, clear communications on what we were doing here at the airport, organizational resilience, which is what Karen also touched on with everybody as a whole at the airport, strengthening our business, and then making sure we continue to be an engine for economic recovery. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So those components, they translated into health and safety measures that we call our Ready to Fly initiative. And so that initiative included adding additional hand sanitizer stations throughout the airport. We added extra cleaning to the high touch point areas that passengers would be around, like handrails and countertops. We installed the plexiglass guards at all the ticket counters, at the gates, anywhere where there's customer service. We also started having public messaging, and we inserted the social distancing markers. We added hot water to the restrooms because when the airport was built, it wasn't a requirement. So we added that back in. We installed UV in the AC units, and we got a grant that allowed for additional cleaning of the TSA checkpoint areas. So we were able to do even a more thorough cleaning area of that part of the airport. And then we also turned off the hand dryers in the restroom because we found studies that showed that it's a better, cleaner facility in the restrooms if you don't have those on. So those are some of the steps we did. And then Also, part of the Ready to Fly campaign included our DAB Cares kits. So we knew that passengers coming to the airport, there was still essential travel that had to be done, and we wanted to make sure that they were prepared for the travel. So the DAB Cares kits, we purchased these supplies, and then we also assembled these kits. They included a sanitizer, a branded DAB face covering, a luggage tag, some mints, and then a thank you card to really show our appreciation to our passengers for continuing to use our airport. And this was just an extra way to have another sanitizer. Maybe you forgot yours at home, or maybe you forgot your face covering, or you needed another one. So just a nice little customer experience that we wanted to offer. And we would pass these out to all of our departing passengers, and we're still doing that today. And we've passed out thousands of kits to our passengers. Next slide, please. All right, so now we're going to take a look at some of the air traffic throughout the years. The slide on your screen shows the changes through the years with air service. You can see the dark boxes. Those are the defunct carriers. You can see in the 80s and 90s, there was more than about 40 major carriers, but today there's just 4 major carriers. That's Delta, American, Southwest, and United. Next slide, please. So this slide goes a little deeper. It shows you that on the left, that pie on the left, 81% of the market is controlled by those 4 major airlines. And you can see how the percentages break down. And then the other portion of that pie, that 19% is everything else. And that is represented in the pie on the right. You can see where JetBlue and Spirit and Frontier, Allegiant, they all fit into that other 19%. So to recap, 4 major carriers control 81% of the market today. And we are fortunate at Daytona Beach International Airport that we have 2 of those major carriers, which is Delta and American. We also have Sunwing, which is a seasonal service to Toronto, Canada. When the pandemic hit and travel there was restrictions put in place, that service was temporarily paused, and we're hopeful that Sunwing will come back at Daytona in 2022. But there's a lot to be seen. You know, borders are still closed for there, and hopefully they can come out of this. And then the 4th airline that many people may not realize, but this was part of the trivia question, we have Sun Country Airlines. This is a charter service. So they also were paused for a while in 2020, but they came back online, and this is a charter service for casino gambling, and they operate about once a month out of Daytona Beach. So next slide, thank you. Okay, so passenger statistics. If you look at the chart on the left, you'll see that 2020 started out pretty positive. We had an increase of traffic of 7% in January and 8.6% increase in February. And then COVID hit. Travel restrictions were put in place and the numbers dropped drastically. April was probably the worst month on record here at Daytona Beach International Airport. Traffic dropped 93.5% from about the same time in 2019. And from there, it started to slowly pick back up. In February of this year, we stood at 44% down, traffic down since the same time period last year. But in general, across the country, air travel has been at historic low levels. And at Daytona Beach International Airport, we've actually been doing better than the national average. For instance, in January, nationally, traffic was down 63%, but at Daytona Beach International Airport, it was down 48%. So that's a good statistic for us, for our area. And then another little fun fact is that also during these down times, Daytona Beach International Airport was the busiest airport in the state of Florida for total operations for the month of August, September, and October. So operations are takeoffs and landings. And much of that traffic is due to Embry-Riddle's flight training program and our other flight schools. In a typical month, our airport usually ranks about 4th or 5th in the state. So we're happy about that little statistic. And also one more note about passenger traffic. On Monday, March 22nd, the TSA at Daytona Beach International Airport screened 1,140 passengers, and that was the busiest day that we've had in over a year. Next slide, please. All right, so another positive during the pandemic was the announcement by American Airlines that they were going to start 2 new nonstop flights out of Daytona Beach. One was to Dallas-Fort Worth and the other to Philadelphia. They made this announcement in September during a time when many of the airlines were actually pulling out of airports. And so this was great news for us, and we immediately started planning because the service was set to start on December 17th. Next slide, please. So we started putting together our marketing campaign, and we do that with all new air service. When we know we're getting either a new route or a new airline, we put together a marketing program. And so these are some of the examples of the billboards or the digital ads that we're running locally, and then also in the Dallas and the Philadelphia areas as well, just promoting that we have these new nonstop flights to Dallas and Philly. Next slide. We partnered with American Airlines, and we actually had a co-op program that was worth a little over $600,000 with a partnership between the airport and American. And so American Airlines also did a campaign, and this is an example of about a week or two of what their homepage looked like on the American Airlines website promoting flights to Daytona Beach. Next slide. This is just another example of those American Airlines ads on that airline's website. Next slide. And then throughout the year, during a regular year, the airport does annual marketing and branding to make sure the community is aware of the airport that's right here in Daytona Beach. So in late 2019, that marketing campaign had the key message of skip the trip before the trip, making sure that you don't need to drive an hour or more to another airport. Skip that trip and start your vacation right at Daytona Beach International Airport and save some time and have a convenience. So that's what that message, that's the central theme of our normal branding message, and that was the look. You might have seen billboards around town, you might have seen social media ads, but this has been our look and feel for a little over a year and a half. Change the slide, please. But of course, when COVID hit, we knew that there were travel restrictions in place, and we needed to transition our messaging. So the graphic on the top, we're all in this together, that's what we transitioned to, because that was the feeling in the community across the world. We're all in this together. There was a lot of unknowns going on, and we just wanted to have that as our central message that folks would see on the billboards around town. As travel slowly started to pick up, and as we had our Ready to Fly campaign that we were trying to promote to let people know the health and safety initiatives the airport was doing, we slowly transitioned to an ad campaign that promoted Ready to Fly. And that portion of that campaign talked about the changes that were done at the airport. And I'm just going to read you a small portion. Air travel has changed, and Daytona Beach International Airport has made health and safety enhancements so passengers can feel more at ease when they are ready to fly. So that was a lot of our messaging in the middle of 2020, and slowly transitioning back into regular advertising. Next slide, please. All right, now briefly, I want to go over another initiative we're doing for for new air service, we had the opportunity to apply for a small community air service development grant. This is a federal grant. It's limited to 40 grant awards, and there's a maximum of 4 awards per state. They're only giving out 18 million for distribution, and so far they've received 77 applications totaling 57 million. So it's a competitive grant process. We applied, also did the other airports in Florida that applied were Lakeland, Melbourne, and St. Augustine. We submitted for a $1 million grant. There are 2 factors that greatly improve the chances of an airport being awarded the grant, and one of those is letters of support from air carriers. We are happy to say that Daytona Beach International Airport received 2 letters of support, one from United Airlines and one from American Airlines. And this is a big deal because, especially in this current state, airlines treat letters of support almost as a commitment, even though it's not a commitment. So they're hesitant to write letters of support. So for us to receive 2 letters of support, that's great. And they're both for proposed service for the Washington area and the Chicago area. So that's in our favor. We also had a lot of community support. You can see on the screen, we had our County Economic Development Department with a $100,000 amount, and then the Daytona Beach CVB, the New Smyrna Beach CVB, West Volusia, and also Consolidated Tomoka. And while this grant doesn't require a match, they like to see that there is support for new air service from the community. So we hope to find out something as far as awards towards the end of the summer. Next slide, please. And I have to mention that basically what that money will go for is to help market and support new air service here in the area. All right, so these slides show that another thing that makes Daytona Beach International Airport unique is the special events that we have in the area that bring some really cool planes to the airport. This is a slide that shows some military planes. The one on the top right, I think is one of the, maybe one of the Thunderbirds from when the Speedway has events. And then you can see the other military planes there. Next slide, please. And this is NASA's plane. It's called SOFIA, and it stands for Stratospheric Observatory Infrared Astronomy. And this is a Boeing 747. It's an aircraft that's been modified to accommodate a really, really big telescope. And that telescope is designed to observe the infrared universe, and it allows astronomers to study the solar system in ways not possible for telescopes based on the ground. So we had this plane here a few years back, and it did its missions to fly up that high, and it did those missions right here from Daytona Beach International Airport. Next slide. And then we've had a number of presidential visits throughout the year. The most recent was in 2020. And you can see the photo on the top is Air Force One. And then also we have the C-17, which is the large cargo plane that transports the presidential motorcade. And you can change the next slide. All right, and so I'll leave you with some final couple photographs. You saw the one photograph, that's the concourse at the airport, and then we love the photo on the right, which is a packed concourse full of planes and a full gate. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. We're running short on time a little bit, so I've got a few questions from the audience. I'll probably only get to a couple of them, so either of you, if you don't mind jumping in to answer. The first one on parking. Why are we putting parking farther and farther away and constantly continuing to allow the parking vendor to increase parking rates?
Karen.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Why is the parking further away? Was that the question?
And why is the parking farther away? And why do you allow the vendor to increase the range regularly?
Okay. The parking has always been in the same location. During construction, we did have to move as we were closing different areas. We closed, I believe we started with short term on the west side, and so we moved it over. They're already reopened and and vehicles are back in that area. The next area to close is the long term on the east side. So it was just during construction. So there has never been any change in the parking. And the rates, I think the last time the rates were adjusted were several years ago. What happens is periodically we'll do surveys of different airports and see if that's something that needs to be adjusted. But we're actually one of the lower airports for parking rate, and we try to make it as reasonable as possible for our passengers.
Thank you. And approximately how many aircraft takeoff and landings occur at the airport?
How many aircraft take off and land?
Yes.
There's annual operations are about between 300 and 315,000 operations a year.
Okay, and the next one, kudos to the airport for the remarkable renovation, making all of us proud of the facility. So that's a nice positive comment. And the question, what new destinations would you like to see served by the airport, and is it possible to prioritize? How does that process work?
Joanne? Joanne?
Hello, can you hear me? So we are always working with the airlines to add new service where the demand is. And for the most part, the demand shows the top markets. So New York and Chicago and Washington, Detroit. We have a list of top markets, and we're always talking to the airlines about service to those markets, knowing that there is a leakage factor of people that are going to those destinations, either from another airport or from a connecting flight here. So the conversation is constant, but the airlines have the say. The airlines are going to decide what markets make the most sense for them, and really the bottom line is how they can be how those new routes can be most profitable for them. So they look at a lot of different factors. We hear from everybody. We all want to have more direct service here, but at the end of the day, it's where the most demand is. So we have those top markets. We have a marketing support program that identifies those markets that was just approved at County Council. And so we will continue talking with the airlines. And as I mentioned with the SCASDP grant, 2 of those top markets being the Washington, D.C. area and the Chicago area. And now that we have 2 letters of support from 2 different carriers, we're hoping that we can start service there in the near future.
Okay, great. And then one last question, actually 2 questions. As an international airport, what international destinations do you serve, and does the airport provide transportation to hotels?
So currently we have the Toronto service, which is to Canada. And again, that service was paused during the pandemic. We do not have shuttle service to the hotels. That's an airport service. But I'm not aware if the hotels themselves provide. Some hotels may provide that service. But we have the Uber stands, the shared ride capabilities here, taxi services.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a little bit awkward with these virtual presentations, but if we could have a round of applause for our presenters. And with that, I'll turn it back to Nancy Kiefer for closing comments.
Thank you very much, Lynn, and thank you, Joanne and Karen. What a fabulous program. I can tell you all, you can see the pictures of the airport renovation. They don't do it justice. Make sure you get out there. It is incredible, and we should be so proud to have the airport here and all that they do for our community. Just very quickly, a thank you again to Halifax Health and the News Journal for sponsoring today, and Len for the great job that he did, and the staff here at the Halifax Harbor or Halifax Yacht Club. They always do a great job keeping us safe and distanced. We thank those of you who come out in person and those of you online. Just a couple of very quick things I wanted to mention. We have a new program we've started at the Chamber called Daytona Business United. And this is a minority scholarship program. We want to encourage minority-owned businesses to participate in a 2-year pilot program where we're going to shepherd them through consulting, education, and mentoring. And we really, if you know of business owners that are out there that need that support, it includes a 2-year membership, and it's funded through our foundation. So a really great opportunity to help minority-owned businesses. Reach out to me and let me know if you know of people out there.
Maybe mention what minority.
Minority is, the definition is a federal definition, so it's everything from, ethnic, gender preference, women-owned, veteran-owned, all sorts of things that fall under the minority category. So if there's businesses out there that you know of, have them reach out. Carmen Ruiz with Fast Signs is shepherding that project and is doing a fantastic job. So thank you for allowing me to make a little pitch on that project. And we've got a couple of events coming up as well. Our business after hours is Tuesday, April 20th, and that's with G Beach. It's going to be at One Daytona at the Daytona, which is the hotel there in the Blue Flame. It'll be indoor, outdoor, so plenty of room to social distance. Coming out, G Beach does a lot for local charities, so this is our opportunity as a business community to get to know them and to obviously has some fellowship. This is a joint program with the Holly Hill Chamber, so we're working with one of our local chambers on that as well. The next dates and issues will be May 13th. It will be our legislative welcome back, assuming there's no special session, so I'll put a little asterisk by that. But we hope you will join us again. We'll offer this opportunity, certainly in person. Whether or not the hybrid opportunity will be available, we don't know. But keep posted. Ken's doing a great job, and our team at the chamber, keeping everybody notified of what our events look like. And last but not least, I want to encourage all of you to tell everybody you know who knows Jim Cameron to come on out to the chamber April 28th and 29th. We're doing an open house all day, 9 to 5, both of those days, so we can come out and thank Jim for his service to our chamber for 38 years. Jim has promised me, you're all going to give him a standing ovation. That's not going to work. He's promised me he's going to make himself available, have a memory book there for people to sign anytime during the day, snacks, things going on. And we are going to celebrate Jim like crazy. And with that, I do want to give Jim Cameron a standing ovation from this group. 38 years of service. Jim, we love you, and we'll look forward to seeing you around the community as well. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.